Oh man, the real beatboxers are crazy, man. But they got to be covering those microphones in spit. You know what I'm saying? Whoa, there I am. I'm down here. Hey, look at me. Hey, I'm in this little hole here. Hey, hello, everybody. I'm in a little hole. Would you like to visit me in my tiny little home here in this little cave? Nobody likes when I make those noises. Nobody likes those sounds. Nobody likes when I make those sounds. Nobody. Hello. Oh, look at me. I'm down here in this little hole. Oh, oh. It's Friday. Wow, 30 people just piled in here like it's like Black Friday at Walmart in this place. Crazy. Greetings, programs. It's me, Ingrid Bernal, Hanker Fernail Hill. Welcome back to Runehammer. Hunter, thank you. Please, you guys, do not tip in this stream. Send those 5 or 6 ducats that you have in your pocket over to help those peeps in the old Ukraine over there, man. They need all the help they can get. We got to get them some first aid supplies. We got to get them some food and whatnot. We got to help those people out. So don't give me no $5. I'm okay. They need your help. All right. But thank you anyway. Happy Friday, you guys. Hello, everybody. Well, another week is in the bag. Now, if I'm yelling, it's because I can't hear anything. Yeah, it was a big show last night. It was a big show. And you're standing right in the front, heavy metal, hitting me in the face. Yes. So now I can't hear. But so if I'm yelling, that's why. It's so that I can hear myself. Hi, everybody. I'm back. And yeah, we're back here in our little live ritual that we do each Friday. Some of you guys probably catch up later on at night. I kind of, been for a while now mixing it up, putting it a little bit in the afternoon. I think that's going to change pretty soon, though. We might go back to some evening live streaming here coming soon because the change of the semester. And, it wouldn't be education if they didn't completely change your schedule every few months, right? So we'll see how that goes. But hi, everybody. I'm back, still alive. Rode my bike in this insane rainstorm last night. Totally biffed it. My back wheel got into a trolley rail, a little steel rail that's built into the street. Back wheel hung in there with all this water, so it was like hella slick. Normally you ride over those things all the time. Hung in there, sprocket right into my ankle, tried to save it, went, oh man, terrible. I'm too old to be crashing a bicycle, you know what I'm saying? But I made it to the show and I rocked out. Okay, so this week we are talking about the most commented on post I've ever had. And this is silly. So, I've been on the internet a little while. I've been putting some stuff up on the internet. I post all my junk that I work on and my RPG stuff, my art, my books that I do, all this different stuff. Every once in a while, pictures of chutney. And, there's some mild interest in all that stuff. And a lot of times, the thing that represents the most work or like the biggest accomplishment or whatever gets the least attention, right? I mean, this is the internet. This is how it has to be. But then I post up a picture of a couple of books, like 4 books. And I had some funny little comment that was just like, this is all that's left of my RPG library. I purged, I'm restarting. And it's just like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm okay. I'm flagged safe from the RPG Purge, so no need to worry about me there. But there's 40 some comments or something like in the first half an hour. It's insane. So I was like, wow, this must be a topic of import that needs to be discussed with my lumpy-headed weirdo people with the third arm growing out the back who watch this stuff right here on YouTube. And so here we are today. So let's get right to it, shall we? The books in question. Now, this is true, by the way. This was not an exaggerated Instagram stunt or something. This is true. So as many of you know, I moved from Washington State to Philly a few years ago before the pandemic. And when I did that, was the beginning of the Purge. So a vast portion of my RPG library was left behind. Okay, so that's just sort of back there. Then I had this sort of small collection that I had here. And then, of course, since a few years have passed and cool things have been happening, that collection continued to grow and started taking up more and more shelves. You've probably seen it in the backgrounds of some of my videos or whatever. But then it was like filling up my closet. So I got like my socks, and then I got a Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, right? And then I got my t-shirts, and then I've got like my 5e books sitting there. You know what I mean? So it wasn't so much that I was like, ran out of space or something, or that I don't like all of this stuff anymore. I think a lot of people sort of took this purge that I did as some kind of like apocalyptic sign, or that like I don't like all these things anymore. Brr. That's not it at all. I just kind of, there's a release in it. There's something that feels really good about not so much having, but I think really getting and exploring is the fun part for me. And then like having is not a thing I really get crazy about. I'm not like a haver. I don't have tons of things. I do like to get things and try things, and then I kind of move on. And sometimes they're like entire hobbies, like a whole thing. Like for a couple of years, I'll be exploring some crazy other thing. And then I'll be like, well, that was fun. And then I'll like give away the stuff or sell the stuff or whatever and kind of move on to the next thing. That's just like how I am. And so in this case, I was just like, I always have all these books. And in this case, it was like 36 books or so a little over 30 books. And just like so many RPG hobby folks out there, there's this sort of idea in your mind, like, I might want that someday, or I might want to look something up in there, or I might want to, like reference that, or I might want to get that little piece, or I might want that one roll table, or I might want to just host a whole game with this book. And so if I don't have this book, I can't do that and stuff. And it's this kind of this collecting sort of fun part of, a lot of people love the collecting aspect of the hobby, but I just found these books just hanging out. They're just hanging out in there with my socks. And I got a lot of socks, yo. I mean, for a person with only 1 foot, I have a shitload of socks. I don't know why. Now that I think I've never really thought about that until just now, but damn, do I have a lot of socks. Anyway, the man likes socks. Okay. So I just wanted to sort of let go. Okay. So that's the explanation for why the purge occurred. So there's one very happy person here in Philly who got this huge, like £1,000,000 box. You know how books get into a cardboard box and it's insanely annoying how heavy that cardboard box gets? Like, how is this cardboard box going to withstand the weight of this entire RPG library? Like, this is ridiculous. Okay. And no, Paul, you can't buy a half pair of socks or a single shoe. I've tried. So that's the explanation for why the purge occurred. There's no big message here. I'm not going through a life crisis. I appreciate everyone's concern. I am not bailing out on the hobby. I am not disliking or making any kind of statement against anything. It's just a release. That's just like cleaning your room. It's just a really, really good feeling. Now, is there a little bit of a slow sliding clown tear when you see all your cool RPG books go down the street? Yes, there is. So that is a thing too. But that's it. That's the explanation for the purge. Felt great. So I have a few like paperback novels like in my bedroom bookshelf that are just sitting there. And I don't know why people do this, to be honest. I guess it's because you like to see the books you've read, so they look cool on the shelf. But anyways, I have a few there. I of course have the old Lovecraft and Conan collections, which I'll never get rid of. But as far as RPGs go, this is all I've got now. This is it. My entire collection can be held easily over my head or upon my head right here. Time froze for just a second. Actually, I froze. This is it. So now this is really what I wanted to talk about for the live stream today. Happy Friday, by the way, everybody, is why this collection. And I think this was also a big part. Here, I'll put it back here so you can ruminate on it as we go through each one. There, now you can see it for rumination purposes. There you go. So that became the next big phase of this discussion with my purge and everything, was like, was like, first of all, whoa, are you out of your damn mind? And then, yeah, sort of. And there's also some weird comments of like, oh, I wish I could do that, you know? And it's like, you can totally do it. Anybody can do it. It's a little bit scary, but there's something about letting go of a collection that is really feels freaking great. Thanks, Kuchigari. But please, you guys, instead of tipping, which you guys always do, and I love that you do that here on YouTube, it gets me beer. But let's do a round this week, just like how we used to do Phil Abundance, the food bank here in Philadelphia last year. And we did great, by the way. I don't know if you guys ever noticed that, but I got a special like thank you message from Phil Abundance because Runehammer viewers raised so much in the last couple of years for Phil Abundance. I got like this badge. This is awesome. But I think we need to do that now. We need to turn our charitable minds over to these poor people that are just trying to survive over there in Ukraine and throughout Europe now, as these people are forced out of their own place they live. So let's save our ducats and get them to them somehow. Okay, help those people out. So yeah, so you can do it for starters. If you feel like this is something that's like, man, I wish I could do that. I feel so weighed down by my possessions, right? You can do it. It's just a matter of go for it, and maybe pick a few books to start with, so you don't just completely purge yourself and freak out and feel like now I have no books. You know, maybe try giving a couple of your 5e books to like the neighborhood kid who's thinking about getting into D&D stuff. It will make their year. And it feels so good to do this stuff. Like one of the example that I did this once before, I got into gas powered, like nitro powered RC cars. And this is definitely like an adult hobby. You know, they're very complex to build and to tune, and they run on like nitro fuel, and they're insanely fast and crazy and awesome. I built 2 of these nitro RC cars. This was years ago, and drove the cars, and we had all kinds of fun. We made tracks and like, you know, had a few friends who had nitro cars, and I was totally into that stuff for like 5 years. And then I was kind of like, you know, I think I'm good to go with the nitro car stuff. And I put it all in a huge Tupperware bin, 2 full cars, controllers, fuel, everything, tools. And I knew there was this one kid like 3 doors down. I just went to his house and talked to his dad. And I was just like, you guys want to get into nitro cars? Like, here's like $1,500 worth of crazy nitro car stuff. And they were just so psyched. And then they were good neighbors and good friends forever. So anyways, it's something that can be done. It is a little bit scary, but now let's get to the real topic, which is the books that remain. Ye who remain, the survivors, where so many have fallen. So why these books? It started this kind of discussion of like, well, I don't know if I would want to play that one. If I had to choose 5 books, they would be these ones. And you know, everybody has there's a lot of emotion around book collecting in our hobby. And for me, what we do as hobbyists has honestly very little to do with books. The books sometimes are guideposts for us, but I don't know about y'all, but I don't really play out of books. I like to read the books and sometimes pull a little bit something out, but they generally kind of just stay over there. Our hobby at my table is all on like sheets and cards and notebooks, things that we write down. We aren't all sitting there like in a reading club or something. So I'm sure that type of D&D exists out there and people play that way. It's just not how I do it. So maybe that is something that makes it a little easier for me to purge so many books and makes my choices of what to keep kind of quirky. So let's just get into that. I think that was probably the longest intro. That doesn't count as the intro though. That was actual material. Purging my collection seems like it would feel like moving out with nowhere to move to. Tuki G, which is the great username, that is exactly what it feels like. That is exactly what it feels like. It's this new unknown country. I think a lot of times the way that we keep things in sort of modern culture and modern society, we keep things exactly for the reason that Tuki brings up, which it is a feeling of home. It's a feeling of having a place and like being safe among your things. And when you go outside of that, yes, it's a perfect way to describe it. It is like the unknown country. It's like the frontier in some ways. It's exploring a new chapter without anything to look back to. And for me, that's super exciting. But I am also like a sort of recently somebody called me a child of chaos. That was that was the name given to me. And I am a little bit of a child of chaos, and I'm definitely like an explorer, and I like to sort of get out there once in a while and be a little crazy. So that's a great way to describe it. What books remain? Let's talk about it. First of all, this one needs no introduction and needs no discussion. To me, this book is all that I need of D&D. Almost all of Pathfinder, of D&D, of all this sort of the D&D derivative kind of stuff can all be sort of referenced back to this amazingly quality, compact, well done book. Now, there are millions of cool things outside this book that I will want in my games. Don't get me wrong. It's not like now I live inside this little limited universe. It's just this book to me represents what like D&D is. And so for all these different things that I'm going to invent things, the inventing, of course, is going to be outside. I'm not just going to, I only have this one old school essentials book now, so we only get 5 kinds of characters and stuff like that. We only get these monsters. That's not what I mean. I just mean that this is keepable to me because I love the treasures. I love the monster blocks in here. I really like the XP charts and a lot of the way that sort of what D&D represents to me is in here. But I also just, if I sit with this book and open a random spot and kind of read a little bit, it kindles that D&D feeling in me. And that to me is the real value of this and old school essentials in general. But this to me is the sort of cornerstone of old school essentials. I have or had more of their books. I still have a few because I have to return them. My players left all their books in my basement. So they each have one. Some of them have 2. But this really doesn't need a lot of explanation. If you don't have this book, get this book. I think that this book, even if you like the Rules Cyclopedia, which is my second favorite D&D book of all time, this will capture the things that you liked about the Cyclopedia. It has the sort of the really cooked down fortressy stuff that Cyclopedia has really well. But Cyclopedia is one of those big format books. Those just always feel weird to me. So anyway, Old School Essentials. I've said so much about Old School Essentials in the past year and a half. There is nothing that remains to be said about this. And we will be picking up season 2 of Old School Essentials toward the end of the year. Yeah. Okay. That's Survivor number 1. Next are these controversial little fellows here. Now, you'll probably notice a pattern in the feel and appearance of the books that I kept. They are these they're leather-bound tomes. I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm kind of a big deal. My apartment smells of sandalwood. I love books that feel like this. I'm not a huge fan of books that have big, splammy, colorful sort of characters and monsters on the cover and stuff, or lots of super colorful art and stuff like that. It's not for me. And I think it's because, role-playing books to me, I've always wanted them to feel like something that Gandalf would be in the basement of Minas Tirith, looking at this stuff. It's almost like I like to almost be in a character when I'm sort of researching or reading an RPG book sort of for fun, or for maybe to get some idea fuel going, right, to get some inspiration, or maybe to look up a new idea. Maybe I want to try something different, and there's a weird table in here, for earthquakes. I'm kind of like, oh, that's the first thing I saw, just opening it up like an earthquake. That's kind of a fun, just a starter idea. Where could that go? When I'm doing that type of activity, I like these kinds of books. So surprisingly for Forbidden Lands, both the game masters and the players survived in the Purge, and partially just because they're such quality books. But also, this is one pair of books that really is worth having both. They are not tremendously different. The Game Master's Guide is much more sort of table driven, and there are mechanics in this game that people aren't a huge fan of. It's a hex crawly type game, and some people say that it's sort of laborious playing this hex crawl style that is prescribed in here, and that the dice mechanics in here aren't their favorite, stuff like this. I totally agree with all those criticisms. I'm not keeping these books for those elements. I'm keeping them for this esoteric component. Just having these and being able to just sort of sit down with one of these. It just feels so cool. It's just this feeling of being like in this sort of other world. And honestly, as a bookmaker myself, I just have huge respect for how the tone comes through in this book. I love how they do the D6 monster attack selectors. There's a lot of really good ideas in here, but there's also just this feel and this tone that is just near and dear to me. I love these things. They will continue to inspire me for many years to come. Me and the entire family. Water. Yeah, it was a big night. All right, next, and here is possibly the oddest selection, the Tomb of Black Sand. Now, I don't need to go into another tirade about how neat and how cool this leather sort of feel is. And again, this is like not your typical, it almost looks like a hologram or something, but almost looks like there are actually some Bibles that have an effect like this. Have you seen that? It'll be like a leather Bible, but then it'll have like this almost holographic, like praying hands thing on the front. Really, so again, really cool. But this one, I love this book because I think it's a book that brings me back to this kind of like the sort of the sort of trifold type games, right? Tomb of Black Sand. This is from Swordfish Islands. But you know what I mean by trifold is like, where you print things out on your laser printer and you fold them, you make these little pamphlets for your games, and you draw your map on grid paper, and it's that, but done really, really well. And it looks like it was made with a typewriter and stuff. And making things in an analog way isn't necessarily, the end all be all. A lot of people have a lot of fun with digital tools. Lord knows I use digital tools like InDesign and stuff to make my books and to create the things I create. But when it really comes down to like what this is, why I'm on YouTube, why I've been doing this now longer than anything else I've really done in my life. This is going to be 7 years on Sunday. It'll be the 7th anniversary of Runehammer on Sunday. The reason for that longevity is the analog part. It is the Sharpies and the pencils and the dice. I saw some craziness. It was Joe Manganiello's. Is that how you pronounce his last name? Well, anyways, he has like an augmented reality thing, right? So you look through your iPad, like you're a retiree taking photos on a cruise. You look through your iPad and it has an augmented reality on your table, and you can roll virtual dice and see little minis and all this kind of stuff. And I was just thinking to myself, like, whoa, but the whole thing that makes this so fun is the touchable aspect, like the touchable dice and like the touchable minis and writing things with a pen and like scratching them out and erasing your hit points with an eraser, and like that stuff that is the heart and soul of a lot of like why I continue to be interested in this after so many years. And this book just reminds me of that, and it puts me in that headspace in the best way. It's also a really cool dungeon with some very interesting kind of crisscrossing mechanics going on. Super cool little book. Okay. Now for the pièce de la résistance. This little bad boy right here. The book that sailed 1,000 ships. The Burning Wheel. And I think this is the gold edition. I know this is one of the special editions. There are a lot of special editions of Burning Wheel because they're like that. This is a Luke Crane book. A lot of people have sort of opinions about Luke Crane. I guess he's a somewhat polarizing figure. The way that he does game design and the way that he does like some of his interviews and stuff, I think can be kind of, lift some eyebrows a little bit. And people will often say like, oh, Burning Wheel is, so counterintuitive. And yeah, I wouldn't play that and all that kind of stuff. And they have, or like, oh, the Battle of Wits system in Burning Wheel is so clunky and makes no sense, or whatever, or it's just Mouse Guard is better, or Torchbearer is like the cooler version of Burning Wheel. And, there's a lot of thought energy around Burning Wheel. But when I was on a break from D&D, which was when was that? It was like 2009 to 2012, I think. Yeah, I was on a break because I was working so much. I was doing concept art for video games, and I kind of got into a couple of projects that were like kind of bailout projects, where you really need to get in there. You need to kind of reimagine the whole project and kind of, plan out all this art and do all this stuff. And I was working long hours, and I kind of got away from D&D a little bit. And then one day, my homie Zach, he hits me up. I've known a lot of Zachs in my life. This is a different Zach, though. This is there's so many Zachs. Anyway, he's like, yo, dude, somebody told me that like a couple years back you're playing some D&D, and I saw like your Facebook pictures of like your natural 20s. You would always take blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And he goes like, man, have you heard about this book, Burning Wheel? Thing is crazy. So I got this book, and I was so mind blown by this book. It launched everything. It created Runehammer. It started my YouTube channel. It got my 5th edition group going. It like brought me barreling back into my hobby after a few years off, like just coming in hot after I discovered Burning Wheel. And I still love having it. I think it is my all-time favorite RPG book, hands down. There's something really like erudite about it. Does that make sense? Like something very intellectual about it, something heady. It's the way it feels and the way it reads, the way it's written, the way it's laid out, the texture, and then also the way that Luke he uses multiple voices. He almost like argues with himself, with himself, plural, through the book in this kind of interesting sort of helix of conversation about what this is, like why this isn't just more D&D. I also like the dice resolution, and I also like the action card stuff, which really reached its perfection in Mouse Guard. But it's really cool, and if you take that stuff to even a next step and play like in a sort of single turn combat kind of idea, which some people play Mouse Guard that way. Like every combat is one turn. It's all a matter of setup and resolution, and that is the combat. Played that way, I really think it's fascinating. But it isn't so much that like, oh yeah, I need to get this to my table immediately. Hang on, it's something important there. Okay. It's not so much that I need to get it to my table immediately or whatever. It's just brilliant. And I would love to throw down on a Burning Wheel game at some point. But if I were ever to do that, I would need the other players to be as sort of stanny about it. I'm a Burning Wheel stan, to be at that level as I am, for it to feel like what I wanted to. I think it'd be really easy to accidentally play D&D if you're playing Burning Wheel. Does that make sense? Like, it's still a lot of that same stuff, right? There's, fantasy people cruising around in a fantasy world. They're drinking beers in taverns, and they got short swords, right? But there's something else going on here. And it isn't just, oh, yeah, well, it's the life path system. It's really brilliant, which it is. It's super cool. It gives you this, like if you're the kind of person who doesn't want players to write a 2-page backstory, you're probably not going to dig Burning Wheel. It kind of revels in that type of thinking. And doing this sort of choosing your combat action before really combat unfolds is a really neat way to force a different type of thinking around combat. Just sort of oftentimes when I'm watching movies or something, I'm thinking to myself, man, how come, I was watching Black Cauldron. And in Black Cauldron, the kid is like sneaking around in the castle, right? And I remember it was crazy because it was never an option for him to kind of just like jump out and hope that he didn't get cut too many times while killing a guard, right? There was like way more contrast in the danger of the moment, if that adds up, right? Like if you're just a boy wearing a tunic, right, and you're in a castle and there are these like 7-foot tall guards with battle axes, the success versus failure contrast is extreme. Like if you wake him up and he turns around and swing, like you're going to lose an arm, bruh. Whereas the danger contrasting what a lot of us are used to in D&D is much more blurry and much more, sort of give and take. Well, I woke up the guard. Yeah, he came over here, he chopped me, but I can take that. And then I kind of chopped him back, and it didn't quite kill him. And then he kind of chopped me back, and we kind of went at it for a while, and then I kind of finally got rid of him. But I think played as designed, Burning Wheel solves that in a way. It overcomes that with a more extreme and more high contrast feeling. And the other derivative games like Torchbearer and Mouse Guard, they capture a lot of this too, but they ease back on it just a little bit. In some ways, Torchbearer actually has a brilliant thing with size categories where you can't step to bigger things. You just can't mess with it. And I like that kind of contrast too. But again, it isn't all those brilliant elements that make it my all-time favorite book, although those would be cool reasons. It's something about the intellectuality of it. That is, if that is a word, it shouldn't be a word because it sounds dumb. Mm. Oh, the nectar of the earth, ice water, tasty. Anyway, it's not all those reasons. Those would be perfectly legitimate reasons to be like, I'm never getting rid of this book. I love this book. Every time I look in here, I have new ideas about my own game. It's not that. It's the intellectuality. It's the mastery of the English language. And you get that with some authors. Lovecraft gets a little clunky with that, but I do think Tolkien is really good at that. Just a mastery of English that is fun to read just because the mastery of English. Forget that it's also a fantastic story with all these cool elements that all of us are still like reliving over and over, right? Because we love these sort of central fantasies, like being in a wide open sort of world of wilderness where we can sort of walk across big expanses and there's not a highway, like some of these fundamental fantasies that I think are a big part of like what we want in our life on Earth. Forget that those are even there, and those are amazing. But that command that Tolkien has of English is so pleasing to read, at least for me. I guess maybe if English was my second language, maybe I wouldn't get so psyched by it. But English is my first language, so there's something there. And I would venture to say that Burning Wheel has that something, that feeling of like, wow, this is a well-crafted set of words right here. So I got to send my props out to Luke Crane for writing this. A lot of the stuff that he does, I think, is quite brilliant. But this one is the most special. And I also, there is a tactile quality here that I have to mention. There is something that feels cool about sitting here and looking at this small font. A litmus test for a book that I really, really want to keep is, can I go down to the tavern and order a mug of beer and pull out a book and put it on the bar top there and sit with my beer and read and feel cool about it. If I can do that and get that feeling I like of being like a scholar, a researcher, an arcane delver of tomes, if I can get that feeling, then that is a keeper. And I don't get that with lots and lots of RPG books. And believe me, some of these were really difficult to part with in the Purge. Like Call of Cthulhu, 7th edition. Bro, that book is dope. That is such a sweet, sweet book. Or Torchbearer. Oh my God. And the new Torchbearer small format books are so fly. So cool. So that is the skinny on the books that I kept and why I kept them. And I am mentally healthy. I am marked safe from the Purge. So I know a few people at least were like, dude, are you all right? Are you going to like jump in a lake next? Like, what are you going to do if you gave away your books, bro? What you going to do with your spare time, man? You can't just collect Skeletor all the time. There's only so many Skeletors. And yeah, let's just transition quickly right into Q&A. Remember, all caps question if you want me to notice, because wow, there's almost 200 of you in here right now. That's crazy. So, but I really want to answer what Yaml just mentioned. This is a really, really good way to find players, is to go to a pub order a beer, and pull out, your favorite sort of compact format D&D book, or work on some notes, be drawing a dungeon or something, and people will ask you what's up, and they will be D&D people. I know that finding players is a fundamental challenge all of us have all the time. And sometimes we have friends who aren't players. So, you only have so many friends, and they're not D&D players, so you can't really force them into it. What you want is to meet people who are just as excited as you are. And if it's someone who just approaches you like cold call style and says, "Hey, are you into some D&D stuff?" That's probably someone who's really psyched about D&D and is going to be a cool player. No, I don't read my own books in the pub, Pyronide. I don't do that. I should, but I don't. It's really different when it's your own book. It's kind of almost weird. It's like looking at yourself in a mirror a little bit. Like, all those words and pictures so well. You're so familiar with all that. It's kind of strange to be reading it. I mainly like my books around for the loot tables in the back. That's like the number one thing that I use my books for. Okay. I have not run a real game of Burning Wheel. No. And I've had this stinking book forever, like 10 years or more. So, for one thing, I've never found anybody who wants to play. It's just a somewhat obscure RPG. But for another thing, I would need to lean into it. I would need to get inside of it. I really need to be in the mind space of a game to do something that I would be proud of with it. And I don't know, maybe I'm already there. I've read the thing like a million times, but yeah, I just haven't gotten to it. And I think that says something else interesting and odd about our hobby, is that you can consider something your all-time favorite and not have played it. That's totally okay. This hobby that we all do and that we all love has so many pieces and aspects to it. It doesn't always just have to be sort of one thing. Charles Cap, how many Skeletors do you have? I think I have 4 Skeletors right now. I would really like to expand my Skeletor collection, but I don't really want to get different Skeletors. I just want all the same Skeletor. I just want a bunch of them, and I don't know why. I'm a grown man, and I don't know why I want more Skeletors. That's just, Skeletor, though, gives me a feeling kind of like Burning. There's something really that I love about He-Man and Skeletor. I know that is insanely goofy, but there's just something that just reminds me not to take things too seriously. maybe that's what it is. When I'm screwing around with Skeletor, I'm in my happy place. You know what I'm saying? Good sci-fi or science fiction. Right now I'm reading Stories for People with Tails by Joe Sterling, and it's fun short stories. It's kind of like sci-fi. But kind of like modern life, kind of quirky, weird stuff, kind of like the Twilight Zone in some ways. What OSC rules tome, basic or advanced? I think basic's kind of cooler. I think this one is the one you want. And this is also, it's a little bit expensive. You do overpay for this one. And the Basilisk cover, I think, is even more coveted. I think it's even done in even smaller print runs. But this is the Classic Fantasy Rules Tome. It is both the Game Master stuff and the player stuff. It is the entire game in one book, which I always like that format. So if I'm a player or a GM or whatever, I always everything is right there. Every question that may come up or everything I want to, fiddle around and read on a Sunday afternoon, it's all right there. So that's the one I recommend the most. The other ones are cool. They have some expanded stuff going on. They have more treasure, more monsters, a few more classes, the usual. I am not a haver, excluding Skeletors, so guilty as charged. How often do you use a book's ideas spark tables? Like tables to get going. Almost never, Scott. Almost never. I like to read tables in an academic way. But, that's not entirely true. Sometimes I do roll on a table for just to see what'll happen. But not a lot, I gotta admit. I mean, I roll treasure tables all the damn time. All the time. I also roll for monsters a lot. Those two things I do a ton, but not necessarily for ideas. Ideas are a little more chaotic and freeform for me. I am not a haver, excluding Skeletors. That is my motto. I love that. What's coming next for this year, Runehammer? Mainly hard suit. Also really excited to be publishing DM Scotty's Easy D6 system. So I did the layout and curated the art from the amazing Sean Bova. Catch up with him on Instagram at Bova Scribbles. He did all the art for us, and it is outstanding. It is so good, and I'm so excited to be working with Scotty. I mean, 5 years ago, if you told me that I was going to be working with Scotty on a book, like, my head would have exploded. It's so cool. Scotty's such a groovy dude, and it really is my pleasure and privilege. So grateful to be working with him on that. So we're doing that. We're doing my hard suit book, which is coming up, and who knows what else. I just released the 9 Gates, which was my own game jam. So I did a 6-day game jam. I did an entire sort of thing that I was proud of in 6 days. It was a very long 6 days, but it was just kind of a fun thing to do, and I published that recently. So, on it goes, the usual craziness. OSE versus DCC. Sorry, DCC, I love you, but I gotta go with OSE on that one, hands down. What do you think of niche indie RPG scene on sites like Itch.io? I don't know what Itch.io is. How are you celebrating Rex Manning Day? I don't know who Rex Manning is. Is that what, like Peyton Manning's dad? What's your favorite crafting tool? Crafting tool? I don't know, glue gun? What would I do without a glue gun? Not fix things, for starters. Yeah, starships. Scotty's unique brand of Scottyism really comes through in this book, and it's crazy fun. It's really neat. He really speaks with a voice that shows he's played like 10 zillion hours of tabletop, and it just comes through in the way that he writes. What compelled you to keep? Oh, well, that's just what I just talked about forever, Luke. Why I kept them. It's really a matter of tactility, of vibe, of tone, of inspiration, of energy. It isn't necessarily just like, yeah, from now on, I'm going to play Forbidden Lands. And that's kind of what the stream has been about so far. How you turned Wayne Wayward's backstory around was a masterstroke, David. Hey, you cheated. Compliment. It's not cheating. You called it a compliment. Yeah, man, that was a huge, huge turning point in our OSE game. And thank you. All my players kind of said the same thing. They were really happy about that. Have you checked out Black Magic's Kickstarter? Well, I don't know if this is a spoiler. I don't know if Jeremy's in here. I'm actually designing the miniatures for Idols of Torment. So how dope is that? He's got one really cool artist doing like what we call the vibe pieces, which are these kind of, sort of murky, kind of scary, intense sort of concept pieces. But I'm doing the illustrations that are the actual designs of the miniatures. So, yeah. Yeah, Mapernomicon. Yeah, Scotty did the writing and the design, and it's the system he's been playing at his table for years. And then when he informed me he was doing this, I was like, dude, you have to let me work with you on this. You got to let me do the layout, and I need to find an artist who is cool enough to do the art for this, because I'm not. So we need to find somebody awesome, and we did. And yeah, I zoomed around too. Do your games all occupy the same Runeverse? Yeah, they do. I don't know if that makes me crazy, but yeah, like all my worlds tend to be in the same world. It just accidentally always happens. I like cross-reference them without even meaning to. Like Blackmore, I think, is kind of now in the Runeverse. So it's probably like on the other side of one of the planets that are in my sort of universe. Have you explored many RPGs published by Free League? Absolutely. I think all of them. I think I've gotten every Free League book that has come out. They're great. I don't like everything they make, but just as a creativity house, they definitely rock it. I am totally not into their like IP games. Like I think they're doing Blade Runner right now. To me, that's just like, why? The Pianist, RPG core rules. Like some movies and other IPs, intellectual properties, are about emotions and tactility. They're not about like making an RPG out of it. And I think Blade Runner is one of those. But that's just me. I'm sure there's a bunch of Blade Runner fans who are psyched out of their minds right now. Yeah, Dork Jedi, Hardsuit is ICRPG. It is the biggest and most complete world that I've made for ICRPG. And yes, bigger than Alfheim by quite a measure. Question: not so much bigger in like terrain, but like what I'd like to think of it as utility or playable space. Can I commission you for a custom character sheet? Absolutely, Ty Brute. Email me if you know someone's interested in the hobby. Would you dump the 5e starter box or the core books? I'd probably go if they were wanting 5e in particular. I would give them the starter box. But if they didn't mention 5th edition, I would not start a newcomer to the hobby on 5th edition. I would start them probably on OSE, just like I did my group. They were all newcomers, and I wanted them to see D&D from the OSE lens. If you know, which heavy metal would you convert into a dungeon or adventure? I don't know, Ravening Iron by Eternal Champion, maybe Valley of the Snake by Heavy Temple. Yeah, Alien RPG is probably my least favorite of all the Free League books. Sorry about that. I as a lifelong fan of Alien, I think they completely failed to capture what that IP is about. Sorry about that, guys. It's a good try, but you're definitely walking on some holy ground when you want to try to make an RPG out of that. Yeah, Eternal Champion, hell yeah. So, redheaded lumpy, yeah, yeah, that dang Alien RPG. Wait, something's wrong. Are you planning to publish GM advice in book form? Not really, Gurno. And thanks for the holler on the GM chapter in ICRPG, but I really have changed my focus away from sort of quote unquote advice. I'm not sure why. Maybe I just sort of said what I needed to say and I kind of finished the course curriculum that I wanted to design for GMing, and I kind of said my piece. I think I don't think I need to beat people over the head with it. I'm just having fun making playable worlds. The whole thing with Hardsuit. My first session of Hardsuit is next Wednesday, so I'm going to be building and playing and writing that with using the table as the crucible of that game, and that to me is the real fun of what I do, not necessarily giving advice. The explosion in RPGs in the past 10 years has been so crazy. There's so many different styles and things. I think that I said my piece as far as my particular style, so I don't think I need to just kind of keep going after it. Can we see the journal spread for Hardsuit? You know what? I have not been working in a journal. I know. 7 years you guys have been watching me on YouTube do these journals. I have been working in like pieces of index card. I've been writing on a laptop. I've been writing on little scraps of paper. I am in total chaos mode with this. I suppose I should get my shit together if I can start working on a damn journal. But yeah, like the last 3 sessions or so of OSE, I mainly did those sessions off of index cards, not out of a journal. It's a little bit sad because index cards don't survive like journals do. So I should probably get my shit together and keep working in a journal. Yeah, RuneCon is going to be at JeffCon in Charlotte, North Carolina, November 11th. We are going to piggyback on their con, and the Shield Wall has been instructed. I am calling it out right now. If anybody wants to come and hang out, play with old Ingrid Bernal right here, drink some beers together, Charlotte, North Carolina, November 11th, that whole weekend. I'm going to go down there. Scotty's going to be there. I'm trying to get everybody who's down with Runehammer to basically storm the castle on JeffCon. It is going to be the end of a great tradition, which is the Mace Gaming Convention tradition. Its founder, Jeff, unfortunately, has gone to Valhalla, and so this is going to be the last of that family-friendly, awesome little con. I'm not like a Gen Con kind of guy. I like a con that is small and is focused just on games and just kind of playing and not so much mental distance with all the people that it's like being in an airport or something. I really like a small little jam. So if you want to come and hang out, come to JeffCon. You can look up JeffCon, Charlotte, North Carolina on various internet things and you'll find it. Come meet me there later this year. November is a good ways off. That gives you plenty of time to plan. And I'll go down there early. I'll go down like Wednesday and stay through the weekend, so there's plenty of time to chill with everybody. Anyway, whoo, how about that answer, huh? Lee now, what software are you using to sculpt minis? I'm not sculpting the minis. I am illustrating the designs. I do the blueprints, is what I call them. I do sort of straight perspective illustrations of the miniatures that modelers then use to do the sculpting. So really great and really fun to be working with Pilly. Me and Pilly, me and Black Magic Craft both got so busy, and then like this stinking pandemic happened, and we kind of were just, like always, miss you, buddy, but not really getting down like we did a couple years back. And so it's been really groovy to kick it with him. He's my homie right there, man. That's my dude. Yeah, I mean, it's a ways from Michigan. It's going to be a ways for everybody. That's what going to cons is all about. You have to do a trip and you stay in a hotel. Have you ever played political intrigue focused campaign? Iñaki, thank you for that question. I wouldn't say the whole campaign. No, I don't know how you would do an entire campaign that would be focused on that, but I have played ones that have more of that in them than others, for sure. Absolutely. But we tend to be a little more action packed with me and my groups. I think the political stuff makes a good undercurrent, but I really think action and adventure and a little bit of scary and some delving and stuff like that are just so meat and potatoes. Yeah. Yamily, 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 yamily. Yeah. Charlotte's a groovy spot too. It's not like a massive city or anything. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Reaper is the boss of Metal Minis. No way, yo. What, you crazy? What about Ralph Partha, beat? What about Ralph Partha? Woo! You get them old minis, yo. The old toxic pewter lead mixture. that's what you want. But Reaper Vintage is really good too. Oh yeah. A paper punch and ring clips. That's crazy. So it's like a little floppy Rolodexy thing. That's crazy, man. You out your mind, fool. Will the collector's edition of ICRPG go on sale again? Actually, yes, it is. The reprint is coming. I just heard at the beginning of this week. I think they're going to do a run of 1,000 of them. The first run was 500. So it's going to take a little bit for those to get finished, a few weeks. And then, you can see it right back there. That's my collector's edition. Those will be back. So just keep an eye on all my socials and stuff. And I will holler when those are coming, because really those are the one that you really do want. Modifius's book quality is so through the roof. It's so great. I know it's been hard to get everybody their books, and like shipping in this kind of chaotic global situation we're in right now just seems to be getting worse. And so that is tough. It does force some of us back into our PDF kind of print and bind lifestyle, which is a big part of the hobby. But dang, if these books aren't amazing quality. But yeah, man, shipping's just, oh God, it's really hitting everybody right in the pocket. Hey, Theodore, ideas on how to get my kids. Oh, no, I don't know anything about kids, man. Kids are crazy. Just scary little buggers. I have no idea how you would do that. For me, it just had to happen. I just got into it on my own. My parents had absolutely nothing to do with anything like that. That is not their jam. Favorite board game? Oh man. Well, I don't know. As far as number of times played, does Yahtzee count? Yahtzee's not really a board game though. I like Azul. I like Wingspan. I don't know. I'm not a huge board game person. I like Talisman. Does Hero Quest count? Every board game I bring up is like in a gray area of maybe it isn't the board game. Couldn't they just make metal injection molding mini? Yeah, I think they do, but oh my gosh, you want to get the sickest metal miniatures there are. Go to Metallic Monsters. They are $80 for a solid brass mini, which I know is completely insane. It's totally not affordable. But for that one, end of campaign super miniature that you're going to have the rest of your life, it's really pretty neat. Since I missed the first part of the stream, oh, what was the well? You'll have to go back and watch on the archive, Lord of Darkness. But I rebooted because of the freedom that comes with it. I mean, it feels great to just clear out your closet. It just feels damn good. I don't know if there's really much deeper explanation than that. Do Viking Death Squad and ICRPG take place in the same Runeverse? Yeah, because Viking Death Squad is on Earth, this Earth, our world, and our world is definitely in the Runeverse. Like Vigilante City is on our Earth. So yeah, our Earth is in the material plane in the Runeverse, which so is Ironheart, so is Earth with a U, which is where Alfheim is. But they're at different times and stuff too. So yeah, but it's in there. Yeah, yeah, and it's not the the $80 thing. They are amazing. Like I know that sounds ludicrous. I've only ever bought one of them, but it is the toughest, heaviest, coolest material, which with a natural like patina shading to it that is not paint. They're so dope. Um, yeah, yeah. I think ICRPG is somewhat kid friendly. That's at least what I'm told. I never intended it that way. Um, maybe that's why I don't know anything about kids because I kind of am one. But yo, I have got to wrap this up, you guys. I have got to go pick up my significant other. It is about that time. Somehow it got to 2 o'clock already. I don't know how that happened. How is it 2 o'clock? It's madness. And by the way, we had almost 200 lumpy-headed mutants in this live stream today. I don't know. Y'all are crazy, man. You're crazy. Get out there and get some of that Friday sunshine if you have it in your area. Thor came ripping through here last night and tore this city to pieces, but now everything smells good. And I don't know where all the trash went. It must have washed into the ocean because the city looks all clean and happy today. So, hey, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in. It was really fun talking about my new ultra minimal library and why Burning Wheel and some of these other really tactile books, to me, their inspiration is more important in what I do in the hobby than any massive archive of rules or options or monster stats or maps. Those are things that I do. So the inspiration is what I look for in a book. And I think realizing that let me set loose a lot of my collection. And I'm feeling very light in the loafers, as they say. Actually, I'm not sure what that means. You keep saying that word. Do not think it means what you think it means. Anyways, hey, Annalie, what's up? But yeah, I am going to get out of here. I've got a short amount of time to drive across the city, and I'm going to do that. So you guys, please enjoy your weekend. Make this world just a little bit more better. Even with the smallest little things, help somebody out, whether they're around the corner, on the other side of the planet, or anywhere in between. Just do something nice for somebody this weekend. And if we all do that, it's all just going to keep just going around like everything in this world is just going to get a tiny bit better. And believe me, as you all know all too well, the world could use a little bit more love right now. All right. So go hand some out. All right, you guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And I'll try to switch up the times of the streams so that those of you who can't make one time slot and who have been able to catch a lot of these kind of early afternoon ones, we'll switch and we'll kind of go later so that kind of the US crowd can come cavorting back into Runeham area to hang out with old Mr. Burnall over here. Okay, you guys, I seriously have to go. Thanks so much for tuning in. I will see you next week. Keep it real. Don't steal. You're always going to get a good deal. All right. Peace, you guys. Bow, down, bow, down, 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 down. Whoop.